Okay. I'd like to welcome everyone joining us from all over the world. This is the second event hosted by OCD Acceptance. OCD Acceptance is a platform to bring OCD patients closer to mental health professionals and advocates. And once in a while, I will host a live event just like this to invite mental health and advocates to share their experience and insights of living with OCD. So on this episode, I'd like to introduce Epifania Rita Gallina to you. Epi is a 24-year-old college student majoring in psychology and minoring in creative writing. Her future goal is to be a psychologist, clinical neuropsychologist, and a cognitive neuroscientist. She loves reading and writing, and those two are her favorite beloved life endeavors. In September, she created a support group called Living on Edge, Taking Your Life Back through ERP, which enables everyone to discuss all things OCD, anxiety, and various techniques that help with the treatment. And remember, if you want to ask questions for the Q&A session after the talk, you are more than welcome to. If you are using YouTube to watch this talk, I still don't know if you can leave a comment chat. So please click on the banner that says be part of the conversation, and then click on more button in the top bar of the new window, and finally choose the Q&A button. In the end of the talk, I will ask you your questions directly to Epi. And therefore, let's welcome Epi to talk about her personal journey and freedom from OCD with CBT and ERP. There you go.
Hi everyone, this is Epifania and I will now share my presentation. Sorry, 1 second. Sorry for the... Is it visible now? Bowen? Do you see my PowerPoint?
Yeah, you just play it.
Okay. You see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Epifania, as Bowen has already mentioned. I am 24 years old and today I will tell you a little bit about my journey with OCD. So my presentation title is CBT and ERP in HOCD and ROCD. And I have called this my personal journey and freedom from debilitating OCD. This is, of course, one of our banners. You can find most of the time you'll have a ribbon or a butterfly like this. And the APA a couple of years ago came out with this quote, which is really close to my heart. It's treat it, don't repeat it, break free from OCD, which I would suggest everyone, go on the APA and find the videos that are associated with this. So for all of the newcomers, what is OCD? Well, we know that OCD it consists in obsessions and compulsions. I'm leaving here descriptions that are lengthy for those who want to go back and view them eventually. OCD is composed by obsessions and compulsions. The obsessions can be unwanted, irrational, intrusive, repetitive thoughts that are considered disturbing. They are irrational. They cause anxiety and irritability. The compulsions are rituals or behaviors that the person has to do in order to alleviate the feelings of discomfort. Many times, these compulsions are also mental. As for my OCD experience, this October 2016 will be 6 years since the first time I developed OCD. It is a general disorder, but I have had many themes in my life. in these 6 years: HOCD, ROCD, stealing OCD, just right, checking, and many more. Today, I'm proud to say that on the scale of 1 to 30, I am a 13, which is considered in remission or mild, and 3 years ago, I was on the scale of 20 and above. My HOCD and ROCD are at 1 to 2 prevalence, just right about 10%, checking 5%. And from time to time, there's a presence of stealing thoughts. I also suffer from generalized anxiety disorder, also known as GAD, and that takes up most of my day, actually. Mindfulness helps me keep all of this under control, which is a technique that I learned during therapy. Most of my mindfulness techniques are the reading and the writing, which keep me present focused. So October's will never be the same for me, because on October 2nd, 2010, I had my first onset of HOCD symptoms. I was 19 years old, and this is how it occurred. I was over at my friend's house, and I had always believed that she was prettier than I was. I'd always been a nervous, anxious person around people that I felt not as confident as. And that night, I just got a thought. It said, if you believe your friend is pretty and notice she's not dressed enough, that means you're gay. I got stuck on that thought, and I tried to rationalize, which is explain the thought in my head for an hour. And I rationalized why I wasn't gay all the way home. I spent 3 months on and off with that, and then it went away until it came back in February. What is pure OCD? Pure OCD stands for purely obsessional OCD. During my conference, in the conference in Boston in 2014, we learned that pure is a misnomer, which means that people that have pure OCD usually think that they don't have compulsions, and sometimes, and many of the times, mental health professionals don't know how to diagnose this properly because people claim not to have the overt compulsions. But the mental rituals like reviewing, checking, ruminating, rationalizing are actually the compulsions. Mental rituals in HOCD, some of them I won't tell you all of these from this list since it's long, but you can go back, as I said, and see it, they are avoidance of films, images, and situations that expose yourself to the ideas of sexual orientation, asking self, do I find that person attractive? Asking self, am I currently aroused? And asking self, for example, am I appropriately disgusted by this? And the compulsions are checking one's body for physical signs of arousal, for example, or I would check myself when exposed to like an intimate moment. My main HOCD thoughts and compulsions were, does finding a woman attractive, pretty, beautiful mean I am gay? Why did I stare for more than a second? Do I like her? If I want to spend more time with my friend, I'm actually gay. And I remember having the most terrible thoughts in the presence of my best friend, who then the HOCD attached itself to just because she was my best friend. ROCD. And I added the quote from the song, "What's love got to do with it?" And that is a picture of me and my husband now, who ROCD didn't have the chance to take away from me. This is the fairy tale myth and the myth of the one is a big factor in ROCD. And I added Cinderella because guess what? Unfortunately, even though I really love her, she plays a big role in this issue. ROCD and mental rituals. So ROCD mental rituals are, in particular, what is ROCD? It's focused on the obsession. What if I don't really love my partner? So the individual wants 100% certainty that they love their partner. So obsessions are, what if I don't really love my partner? What if he or she is not the one? What if I am really not attracted to them? What if I'm attracted to somebody else? And many other ridiculous questions. The compulsions can be overt, avoidant, reassurance seeking, and mental compulsions, and I shared some here. Having, for example, overt compulsions. You have an intimate encounter with your partner in order to see and feel that connection. You avoid being around attractive or triggering people. And you also reassurance seek family members, you ask them, is this possible? Why am I thinking this? If I'm thinking this, it has to mean something. And you have mental compulsions like reviewing what happened or checking other things, comparing to other people. The ones that I had were most of the ones that I mentioned. And also, do I really want to marry him? How do I know I want to marry him? Do I actually want to kiss him? Why am I feeling nervous about the future? Does that mean I don't want this? Shouldn't my heart beat when I see him all the time? Shouldn't I have eyes only for him? And why can't I speak about my relationships without getting anxious? Wow, OCD had so much to say, and normal people thought this all the time, but not for an OCD brain. Also, I want to specify, normal people think this, but they choose between the good and the bad, which I will now explain. So after 2 years, I spent from, let's say I had OCD in 2010, right? So I spent 2 years of trying to help myself really by books and look at videos, and I was on support groups and people pleaded me to get help and I wouldn't listen. Now, it's also because I come from an Italian culture. In Italian culture, it's rare that you actually go to therapy. And you feel ashamed if you have a mental health issue. And it was very, very bad for me. I felt ashamed and I thought everybody was going to talk to me and I couldn't tell my parents. But finally, I got help. And I got help when I moved back to America. I participated in a study. It was in a study for OCD and related disorders, sponsored by the Colombian Neuropsychiatric Institute. And I went for 3 trials and I got a free diagnosis and also some money. The researchers there were amazing and they diagnosed me with OCD, GAD, and mild depression. Eventually, an amazing doctor was really great at doctor and head of the department, Dr. Marcia Kimmeldorf, suggested for me to see the Reed Center. At the Reed Center, I met the amazing Dr. Bender. He is the director of the Reed Center and also one of the main clinical psychologists. I started with Dr. Bender, who also diagnosed me with OCD, and I started CBT, ERP, and mindfulness. So what are, first of all, the components, the major components of CBT are the cognitive distortions. This is a list of some cognitive distortions. For example, we have all or nothing thinking, like you look at things in absolute, black and white. Overgeneralization, you view a negative event as a never-ending pattern of defeat. And one of the ones that plays a major role in OCD is actually emotional reasoning. You reason from how you feel, like I feel like an idiot, so I really must be one. Or this can go along with thinking. Thinking, if I think in a certain way, this must mean something. And the cognitive distortions in OCD that are connected to those are intolerance of uncertainty. You must be sure that this is not going to happen. You're not going to kill anybody. You're not going to harm anyone. You're not going to cheat on anyone. You're not going to touch that thing without, making something explode. I'm not going to leave that stove on. I need to know that it's shut, and it's shut in front of your eyes, but you don't know because OCD is telling you don't know. And we'll go on to, and then there's the need to control thoughts, intolerance of anxiety, your significance of thoughts. Oh my God, I thought something. Does the OCD take into consideration that you have 100 billion neurons firing? It doesn't. So yes, this is some. Don't believe everything you think. If there's one thing that I will tell you now and forever, until the day that I die, is don't believe everything you think. Please. And that uncertainty is the only certainty we have. You might be asking, why and how are you saying something like that? And how does that make sense? But think about it. Every day we walk outside of the house and every day we don't know what's going to happen to us. And it's scary and it's frightening. And is there a real reason why we came to the earth? And what is our mission on the planet? And all these questions that come around, even the most basic ones, like anything that concerns our daily lives. Do we have certainty of what's going to happen? We don't. And in fact, uncertainty is the only certainty there is, and true security is the result of accepting and embracing the certainty of uncertainty. And the only thing worse than uncertainty is fear. So it's present in everyone. So my main idea is don't let it fool you. Don't let it tell you that you're the only one that has this problem. Doubt is present in all human beings. And people choose. People choose what side to believe, what side to be on. If, for example, your relationship is truly, truly miserable, like abusive, and there's no way out of it, you would probably not spend years ruminating over it. You would know that that's a miserable situation. But OCD wants you to even think that the way you're staring at your partner means something bad. And do we really want it to lead our thoughts, our lives? So it's the need for certainty that fuels the fires of obsessive compulsive disorder. And compulsions are performed to reduce anxiety by making sure everything goes okay, like I said. So for OCD sufferers to recover, they must refrain from doing these compulsions and learn to live with doubt, which is exposure and response prevention. Indeed, every one of us has to live with uncertainty. As we say, and over, we hear from those with OCD and others who admit it's just too difficult to do so. And like we said, it's not difficult to do so because we all live with uncertainty. Accepting uncertainty means being free. From all this, the main thing that I have been telling my friends for the past couple of weeks, that I have been telling my co-admins and people that I talk to on a daily basis is, this is a part of a fictional character, of course, but Albus Dumbledore once said that we have all good and bad inside of us. He was not the only one that said it. Philosophers said it. Our religious leaders have said it. It's what we choose. Accepting that you don't know if a thought is really going to happen, or something is actually because you can't predict the future, and OCD wants you to predict the future for all themes, really. It's accepting it doesn't mean that you are a bad person. So you're accepting something might happen, but that you don't know, and you're accepting that you might be bad, but guess what? You also are good. So you can be good and have bad thoughts. Like the same way bad thoughts, people that are bad can have good thoughts, which is kind of creepy to think about it if we think about some terrorists. But anyway, I'm not joking with this. We all do have those good and bad sides in us, but it's the part that we choose that is okay. So for example, we always say that we should choose to behave based on our values. What did you do before OCD came? You just loved, right? You just loved. You didn't question why you love, but then OCD came and it was like, well, why do you love? And do you love this way? Remember what you did before. So CBT helped me by observing the thoughts and letting them go. Learn that danger is not always in the vicinity, like it taught me. OCD taught me. Learn that thoughts are a product of my billions of neurons firing, and more. ERP, which is really scary in the beginning, but then is a lifesaver. It doesn't say here, but research states that ERP is 90%. It has a 90% rate of that it works. Sorry guys, I also think in Italian, so my mind is like in both. It's very bilingual. So ERP is a subfield of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's used to treat obsessive compulsive disorder. It makes use of classical conditioning through extinction and habituation, and has been demonstrated to be more effective than just medication. It works by you're exposing yourself to what you're thinking, and the therapist starts on a hierarchy. So you start from the smallest, the least frightening thing to the highest frightening thing, and you make a commitment to not give in and engage in the compulsive behavior. And eventually, you will feel a drop in your anxiety level as long as you're not checking it. So what's the other strategy? You have to unlearn the myths. The myths come even before the OCD. For example, the myth of the one, like a great relationship depends on great meeting of the minds. No, you don't always have to be 100% the same. If you were 100% the same, you would get bored after a while. And a great romance also. In the beginning stage, you feel greatly romantic, but after a while, no, you're committed. And romance is something that you have to work on. Romance is something that you have to spark. But it's not something that just comes after 3, 4, 5 years and you just want to feel butterflies all the time. It doesn't work like that rationally. And sexual orientation, that's for example, like finding people of the same sex attractive means you're gay. Accepting gay people means you're gay. So how I expose. So to break it down for you, you get the trigger and you're starting to obsess and it's like really crazy and you're distressed and you really want to just run away, hide, and you're crying. And for many of us, we're crying. So we want to be like, oh no, this is, this is what it actually means. And the OCD is like, oh really? Okay. 2 seconds later, oh, is this what it means? But wait a second. Did you see how that person turned that knob over there? Do you think that there's something still on there? Maybe you should go check. Oh yeah, let me check. You check. So he's like, but wait. Did you see that little spot, that spot? And you're like, no, but there's no spot. No, don't argue with the OCD. The OCD is not your like friend to argue with. Let him be himself. Don't see OCD as not you. I mean, these thoughts are happening in your brain. They are realities, but they're not facts. So I always see the OCD as the person with its own opinion. Let it be its own opinion. And then being mindful, present focus in your experience. So being mindful is not different from being cognizant, but it's like you are, instead of challenging, you're accepting your feelings, your sensations, you're being a human. And I'm mindful by reading, writing, talking to friends about positive things. I breathe sometimes. I drink a lot of chamomile to calm myself down because I have like a lot of automatic anxiety. And yeah, and anything mindfulness based. So this is what I really want for you guys. So if you're mild sufferers of OCD who cannot afford therapy immediately, please join support groups. Buy OCD workbooks from OCDLA and New Harbinger. Any workbook really is good. Write down your mental rituals, notice your triggers, note everything. Use a CBT reference list. Use an exposure guide. Expose slowly, but please expose, not expose. Sorry. Save money or try therapy in network. And if things get worse, there are specialists that can reduce your fee. And for the moderate to severe ones, I know you want to wait, and you can't really afford it for most part because it's ridiculous. The system is ridiculous, but you can't wait for too long because I waited for too long, and I would have saved more time if I had waited less. And I understand it, but try to find someone in training. Try to sacrifice something that you want to really buy every week. Maybe you can't because you need to pay for therapy. And guess what? Once you've paid for therapy and your mental health gets better, then we'll all take a trip together as long as you get help. And educate yourself on the disorder. Write everything down. Practice CBT. Be mindful. Expose. And remember that practice makes perfect. And that there is hope. And do I know 100% if it's true love? Nope. I know it's my love. And even if the 5% uncertainty doesn't bother me anymore, I have chosen as Epi, not as OCD. Rowan?
Well, yeah, they don't have like applauding here on Google Hangout, but I will applaud for this talk.
Thank you.
It's so good. And so now Epi, I would like to ask you several questions around living with OCD. So the first one is, like, whenever you find yourself tired or exhausted from OCD, what would you do to relax?
What do I do? Well, it depends. Sometimes I will, like maybe take a deep breath. Take a lot of deep breaths, not just one deep breath, a lot of deep breaths. And I will. I'm sorry. Do you see me through the camera? Because I don't think the camera. I think it's off. Sorry.
Yeah, you can't just stop sharing the screen.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm coming back. So I usually, it really depends. I sometimes need to take a really hot shower so I can de-stress. I get very stressed at work many times. I'm always like thinking about what's the next thing to do. I'm having a hard time lately with the staying present, focused, and mindful. So at work, it's like I'm always thinking of what's the next thing that I have to do, and instead of like, I don't know, talking to my colleagues during lunch, I have to like, I'm on my phone planning something, or like, so that's like a really hard thing for me. But when what I do to try to be, de-stress from that, for example, is that I shut my phone per minute, or I'm usually very attached to my phone because I'm always thinking about something to do, and not to just be disconnected. But other things that I do, like I said, is I read a lot, and reading is mindful and it's connected to mindfulness because you're in somebody else's life. So at that moment, I'm someone else, and the thoughts are in the back of my head, but I don't have time for them. I don't have time for negative thoughts. I only have time to understand what this other person is experiencing, and writing. I should do more exercise though. Maybe that would help.
Help.
Yeah.
And that's great. And you're studying neuroscience, right?
Mm-hmm. A little bit more of it maybe this year.
So could you explain a little bit that why OCD is not only psychological disorder but also a biological one?
Well, okay. I don't know it perfectly yet. Well, I've done more of the psychological aspects of OCD, but on my own I've read more of the neuroscientific part. I know in general that it is caused by this our OCD and our fear system. It's connected to our fear system. So the amygdala is the part of the brain that is the primitive part of the brain. So it's considered like where we get our flight or fight response. So, and that OCD in a way is like where we have that fear of everything. Like we're hyper alert of this situation. So that amygdala is like working too much for constant like scanning of the environment. That's one of the parts of the brain that's connected to fear, anxiety, OCD also. Then I watched a documentary recently they also say that OCD is like, of course it's due to like this rupture of the neural circuitry in our brains, like the neurons firing, and they're misfiring during like the wrong moment. In particular, the last one said that it's like the anterior cingulate gyrus part of our brain is like the way it's circulating is not, it's like coming back and it's going around and it doesn't go forward. So what they do is they try to unblock that. That's kind of what I understood, and I hope that the real scientists here don't want to just like, they'll be like, this girl does not know her science.
Oh
So.
yeah. Yeah, it's good. It's good. So one last question. We talked about ERP today.
Yeah.
And as I'm going to try themselves, you'll find they may fail sometimes. So what should they do to resist the urge to ritualize?
What should they do to resist the urge?
To ritualize?
To ritualize? Okay, so it's very complicated in the beginning. So in the beginning stages, you'll find yourself not being able to resist the urge to ritualize. So exposure is not linear. I found that for months, even though then like I was exposing, I was actually compulsing also. And I was going back to the same thing, and then I was, exposing again. So it's not linear. What you have to continue to do is to write down when this happens, and with your therapist, working on actually like focusing on the ones that you keep relapsing to, because the relapse happens with specific thoughts in particular. So I would say focus on that. And the one thing I would say also, if the urge is very, very, very strong and you're gonna kind of like, you feel like a panic attack coming, compulse for like a minute or two. If you are in the stage of insight that you know that you're compulsing after a while, then stop immediately and go on for life. Go on and do whatever you have to do. I would say allow yourself to let it go. That's why I say compulse. Compulsions shouldn't be done after a while. You should try not to do them ever. But if you're having a really bad day and the compulsion makes you feel better for once, do it. Don't like strain yourself. Because it's almost like an automatic thing that since we have this disorder, it's like we need to do it for a minute to feel better. But if you continue to do it, you're not going to feel better. And in the long run, you're going to be a slave to a mental disorder. I hope you know that. That's what I found.
We learned a lot about your journey with OCD and what CBT and ERP can help with living with OCD today. So thank you, Epi,
You're
for
welcome.
sharing these amazing things with us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. I hope the community is stronger, and I will always be there for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.